Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Whole You. It is now that time where we are experiencing another full moon. This full moon is in Libra, and Libra is a sign that's associated with balance, harmony, diplomacy. It's ruled by Venus, it's associated with beauty. Venus is also the planet of wealth. Considered to be somewhat of a lucky planet. It's associated with the Empress card in the tarot, which is new beginnings, gestation of new beginnings, new possibilities, the law of attraction. So this is also known as a pink moon. And so the pink moon is associated with love, specifically like intimate love, and also the word that's coming to my mind is appreciation. So we might have a little bit of rose-colored glasses going on this particular full moon. And so this full moon does represent possibly a good time to get into a relationship. I'll go into that a little bit more, I think, once we start pulling some cards. I have a feeling that there might be some things that will come up around that. So let's get started. So usually the intention that I set is, what is it that we need to know most at this time to maximize the blessings of this full moon in Libra, this pink full moon in Libra, April 16th, 2022. All right. Okay, 4 cards that came up. Okay. So one of the blessings of this full moon is this may give us kind of like the do-over button. The reason why is because we have to take a look at the new moon that preceded this. The new moon that preceded this a couple weeks ago, it was kind of a mixed bag of blessings because it was bringing up anything that was in the subconscious, because Scorpio and Taurus were really big players back then. Hello, Shakti and Nanda. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome, my friend. So Taurus and Scorpio were really big players during the new moon. And that new moon is also connected to this full moon. You could think of them as like being partners in whatever growth and evolution that we are currently in. So then that new moon, it was bringing stuff up from the subconscious. So and we would see it influence our 3-dimensional physical lives, for better or for worse. For some folks, this was actually a very cathartic experience. And I know that folks around this new moon actually had like some rewards from some of the really hard, difficult personal transformations that they had been working on. So they were able to actually have some like breakthroughs and some aha moments. And then for other people, it was almost kind of like pulling poison out from a wound. It kind of hurts, the process hurts, in order to be able to see what needs to be dealt with so that we can move on more free, more healthy, more happy. But first, have to do the hard things. So now we have this beautiful pink moon in Libra that I almost feel like, for those of us who went through some really tough times for this, especially for this last couple of weeks, I feel like this Libra energy, this pink moon, is almost like salve. It's like salve to like any rawness, like, oh, I feel really raw from that experience. Like, oh, that was really hard. And it leaves us almost like maybe a little pessimistic. This pink moon is like salve for the heart. If it's been like kind of battered around a little bit and we've been having some challenges, the 5 of Wands would say that that's where we've been. That's where we've been for the last couple of weeks of a lot of us who are going to watch this video, where there's maybe been some conflicts, but 5 is also the number of change. This tension, this conflict, it isn't necessarily a bad thing per se. It's just almost like this tug of war of like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I make a change? Do I not? And then the Six of Swords comes right up after that. And the Six of Swords is saying like, okay, if there was any indecision, because that's one of the cons of Libra too, is like having to weigh all of the options before we can make a decision. Finally, like there's a decision that's made. And this card also talks about like having to go do the hard thing in order to get to greener pastures. The water in the foreground is really rocky, meaning that the individuals in the boat are going to might have to go through some turbulence, but the water in the background is smooth. And then there's a green island in the background. Like, better times are ahead, my friends. Better times are ahead. You might have to get through some turbulence, but better times are ahead. The Princess of Pentacles, I think, is reversed, is talking about kind of like the caution of what to watch out for in this full moon. Like there's a real opportunity here to make some transitions, get to some really good stuff, to create new relationships, to resolve conflict from relationships that we might currently have. But first, we have to get through self-doubt. First, we have to get through any pessimism. That was one thing that I saw that came up in the astrology of this too, is that we have the Libra full moon, 26 degrees, which reduces to the number 8, which is associated with the strength card, which is about the needs of the higher self versus leaning into the lower egoic self. And it's about having a functional relationship with the ego. This is one thing I actually want to talk about because this is something that's come up recently with folks that I've come in contact with, is this preconceived notion that we need to kill the ego. Like we talk about like egoic death. I'd like to reframe that in that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of what egoic death means. We need an ego, guys. Without an ego, we're not functional in the three-dimensional world. This world is the world of limitation and separation. It's very important that we have a very healthy concept of me being a separate individual from other people. If we don't, then we have energetic enmeshment, codependency, and all kinds of really yucky stuff that is really confusing and will drain our energy. And luckily, we have the sun in Aries also at 26 degrees, that it's reminding us of your own personal sovereignty and that you have the right to that, even and especially, I would say, not even in a relationship, but especially in a relationship. So on one side, we have the moon in Libra, 180 degrees away from the sun. It's also at 26 degrees. And it's saying that, yes, there are cycles. There are cycles, and that it's really important that we relate to others and ourselves from a place of this higher perspective, this higher knowing. What is like the greatest and kindest thing that I can do within any particular situation? Like with things be as they may, what is the kindest, most compassionate thing I can do? And it might even, the most compassionate thing sometimes requires us to disappoint others, and that's okay. And that is what Aries is here to teach us. Aries is here is saying, yes, in order to have this harmony that Libra is offering on a pink platter for us, we first must be very aware of our own needs, of our own boundaries, and how much we're able to give at any particular time. So that brings me to the last card. The last card here is the Two of Wands reversed. So it's giving us the solution to the self-doubt and pessimism that came up with the Princess of Pentacles reversed. The Two of Wands is very much about strategy. And here's very interesting because in this astrological alignments, Mars and Saturn are playing tag team. with this full moon. So Mars is very active. It's very active. It wants to just like, go for the gusto and just do. And Saturn is very much about discipline and strategy and tradition and karma. And so you have these two playing together that's saying what the Two of Wands is saying, which is in order to be able to get through the resistance, to open up to the new possibilities of having relationships that perhaps are more fulfilling, have more reciprocation, more harmony, more beauty, more of all that Venus goodness, more pleasure. It's time to re-strategize, because the Two of Wands is about strategy. It's about preparing for a new journey, a new beginning. But first, we might have to take a few risks that might really scare the ego. We might have to do some hard things, and not hard things as in necessarily like physical resistance. I think more of the resistance is going to be emotional resistance. One really good thing that I want to bring up around that is there is an astrologer, Gregory Scott. He's on YouTube. Great guy. Love him. And something he said was like really poignant. He said that when resistance comes up, that is a sure sign that you're on the right track. Because if it doesn't scare you a little bit, if the ego isn't a little intimidated, then it means that it may not be big enough. It's not challenging us enough. So when we do get a little nervous and we are taking risks and we are like, oh, I don't know about this, it means that it's making us grow. And that's the egoic death. The egoic death could actually be rephrased as the egoic shedding, because it is a way for us to let go of the preconceived notions of who and what it is that we think we were or are, and open up to new definitions, to new aspects of our identity, to be able to explore more of who and what it is that we are. But first, we might have to allow old parts of ourselves to die off. That's the egoic death. It's not about annihilating or amputating anything and telling it doesn't exist. Has never healed anything. The only thing that heals is love. And I think that this Libra pink moon definitely has that quality within it. We've been through some rough stuff. Maybe that's left us feeling like not really sure of ourselves, maybe not really sure of who we are within a relationship, not really sure of how we want to move forward. And so now it is a perfect time to re-strategize. And 2 is also the number of relating. So this is, with Aries and Libra together, this is such a beautiful opportunity for new beginnings and to just basically hit the do-over button. Hit the do-over button, declare a do-over, and start again. This is a really beautiful opportunity, especially with spring and everything in the air, to start again, So, let's see, is there anything else? Yeah. 3 of Cups. This is about relationships, about teamwork, camaraderie. Comes up right side up. The opportunity is to create new ways of relating, even within a group or even in one-on-one partnerships that are more harmonious. The 3 of Cups, when it's right side up, is all about harmony. And in order to do that, there are some subconscious resistance, like, for example, trust issues. Like relationships haven't gone well in the past. Also, what's coming to me too is not just relationships between individuals, but also relationships to right livelihood, which is also a very Venus and Saturn kind of theme. So if you're redefining how you relate to your career or how you relate to bringing income, that is something that may need to be redefined, and we may be re-strategizing around that. So we might have to go through some resistance, but the resistance is just growing pains. It's just growing pains. It doesn't have to even mean anything, but it is something that we might have to sail through in order to get to greener pastures. And you got this. You've done hard things before. You can do hard things. You know how to do that. And the cards and the astrology are saying that now is the time to invest that energy to do the hard things, because the reward is potentially great. So, there's really no easy button in life anyway. So we might as well do the hard things that have the best opportunity for the return in that investment of energy. We might as well time it and to focus it in a way in which we are going to get the greatest return back for the energy invested. Now is the time to invest. You got this. On that note, the podcast that's coming up this week is Boundaries versus Walls. I think it very much is very well timed. I actually did not know that when I planned that out to do Boundaries versus Walls on this particular week. But relationships and not losing yourself within a relationship versus the sovereign self, all that is definitely applicable with Boundaries versus Walls. We talk about why highly sensitive folks, starseeds, and spiritual seekers oftentimes have more challenges with boundaries and how to implement them than even, folks who aren't inclined spiritually. And we talk about how to know if you're building boundaries or rigid walls. And then I give some tips and tricks on how to build healthy boundaries and keep away from rigid walls that tend to harden the heart and make things yucky and rigid and, not fun. So stay tuned for that next week. And I look forward to seeing you back here in a couple of weeks where we will explore the new moon coming up. Thank you, Shakti. So on point. Thank you for being willing to channel. Much love to you too, my dear. And much love to all of you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you back here in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.